So Nazbhai, I'm seeing participant, although we have shared the flyer, but still not many still there. Participants. So let's wait for a couple of more minutes actually before we start. So Nazbhai, I see people are joining. So can you please start the session actually?
You want me to start the session?
Yes, yes. Although I see there are less participants. Sorry about that. We have
No,
shared
don't
the
worry.
flyer,
So
but still, yeah.
that's fine. That's fine. So I guess if you want, we can wait for probably we can wait until 7:10, right? We can give people a little time.
Yeah, yeah. And meanwhile, like you can, if you can just want to brief up the participant about the session or something, you can have a discussion with them. And also to the participant, actually, initially we have kept you all of you on the mute. If you want to talk to us, to the speaker, please feel free to type in the chat so that Naz bhai and we can just see your responses and we can reply back. And maybe towards the end we can just make you to directly talk to the speaker, Mr. Naz.
Yeah, yeah. So hello everyone. So I guess since people are still joining, we would wait for a couple more minutes before we actually start. So what I would like to do is meanwhile just give you an expectation of what will be there in this talk and how it is structured, right? So the presentation that you're seeing right now, this is geared more towards the freshers who are right out of college, or probably people with 1 to 2 years of experience, right? Who are planning to upskill or move ahead in their career, and people who are just come out of college and want some kind of guidance or assistance on how to approach interviews or how to approach companies about your next job, right? So this is geared more towards that, and in the end there is a provision for q questions and answers. You can ask me anything that you would like to know, and probably we will I'll try to answer them to the best of my knowledge, right? So the first thing is we'll start with an introduction to a little bit. I'll give you an overview about what I do and what my company does, right? And from there we can go ahead and take it forward from there. No, Mirza, so I'm just waiting. We'll wait until 7 and probably give a minute more to see if anyone else is going to join, and then we can get started. So we'll just give it a minute more. All right, guys. I'll get started. So if anyone comes, they can probably join and they can ask questions later. So I'll start off with a little bit of background. So I am Naz Mir. So I am the co-founder and CEO of WebileApps. So we are a mobile and web application company working in Hyderabad. So we have been working on apps and products for the last 10 years, right? So I did my BTech from KLU in Vijayawada. So after that, I went ahead and I was selected in Wipro in a campus interview. So there I have a little bit of experience to help you understand how things work, right? So I worked in Wipro for a couple of years, and then later I came out of Wipro and I co-founded this company with four of my college friends. We started in 2010 and 11 roughly, and when we started out, we were first a mobile app development company. So if you remember, 2007 or 8 was the time when the first iPhone was released, right? And that's when the mobile revolution was happening. So that's when we started our company. The first iOS SDK was released in 2009, and we were one of the first people in India to actually develop a native iPhone application, right? And after that, so we mostly worked on the native development. So iOS had its own native stack, and Android has its own native stack along with the back end, the business logic part of it. So we worked mostly on that. And after that, we slowly transitioned ourselves into the MERN stack, right? So if for the people who don't know what MERN stack is, MERN is Mongo, Express, React, and Node, right? So React, you might have heard about React.js and Node.js, right? So then this entire stack, right, is called as a MERN stack. React Node along with the MongoDB database is called as a MERN stack, right? So we did this transition around 5 or 6 years ago, and from then our company, most of the people in our company, they're the developers and everyone, right? So they belong to the MERN stack. They're trained on the MERN stack, right? And about the kind of work we have been doing after we transitioned to MERN stack, we have built a number of applications that are live today. So I'll probably give you a few examples that you can go ahead and check it out, right? So one if some of you are into investments or mutual funds, right? So we recently launched a platform called as MF Central, right? So MF Central is a mutual fund platform that was built in collaboration with SEBI and KFintech and CAMS. KFintech and CAMS are the only two registrars in India who can handle the investment data, right? So we collaborated with them and we built this platform. This platform was launched sometime around in October, I think. And right now there is a phase 2 of this platform that is will go live probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So what MF Central does is, right now, if you want to invest in mutual funds, right, you have private players like InBunny or Coin or Zerodha, right? Or probably what you do is you go to a mutual fund house and then you buy your mutual funds directly from there. So what SEBI wanted to do was to help investors, right, consolidate all their portfolios and investments in one place, right? So they came up with this idea of MF Central, and this is something that we worked on very recently, and also we worked on another product called as Include SaaS. So Include.software. So this is an entirely SaaS based product that uses AI, ML, and all the chatbots and all that kind of integrations, right? So right now we are 100 plus. We have 100, close to 100 people company in our company. So we have people. So we just don't do development. So we have people in the UI UX field as well, and also we have QA teams, and we have program managers, we have business analysts, and we have CI/CD DevOps. So DevOps is your AWS and the things like that, right? So because to take the applications that we build live, we need DevOps. So it's not one of the core competencies that we want to focus on, but that's something that we do, right, for our client, to make sure that our clients have a seamless transition. right? So this is about me. I'm a BTech graduate. I've co-founded this company with 4 friends. We started as a mobile development company. We embraced the MERN stack, and you heard about the recent work we did, right? And all, we worked on AI, ML chatbots and the mutual fund industry. And we are close to 100 people right now, right? So this is about me and our company, guys, right? So with that, with the introduction done, right, I'll probably go to the next part of this presentation. All right, so I wanted to keep this very simple, right? Because it is simple actually. It is not complicated, right? When you're looking at when you look at freshers, right, or people who have just graduated out of college, right? So what do companies look for when they're hiring someone who is right out of college, right? The first thing is and more I know most of you might have heard a lot of these things, but I just want to go ahead and just reinforce again a couple of these things and also give you some examples, because we have been working in this industry for the last 10 years and we have been hiring people. So I want to give you first-hand experience of how things work, right? So the first thing is your ability to work in a team, right? So in college, in college you might have worked independently or individually, right? You might have worked in teams as well, but it is nowhere near as close to what actually working in a team means inside a company, right? In the college, you might be doing something out of passion, or it might be your hobby, right? But there is not much accountability or responsibility, right? And even if you don't get along with someone in the team, you can still probably deliver whatever you wanted to when you're studying, right, without much of a consequences to the end product or probably your team or yourself. But when you're working inside a company, right, so ability to work in a team, right, so that's one of the most important things. You are a part of a team, right, and you have to understand how you can along with the rest of your teammates, right, how you can improve the overall productivity of the entire team, right? And the second part is problem solving skills. I'm going to talk about in the later slides. And the next things that we look for is taking initiative and skills. I'm going to talk about this in the next slides as well in detail. So the last thing is importance or non-importance of grade and marks, right? You might have some of you might have this questions, right? So how important are my grades, right? Or how important is my percentage, right, when I'm getting out of college in an interview? So it really depends. Like, for example, if you look at MNCs, very big companies, right? To give you an example, Infosys, Wipro, or probably any company with more than 10,000 people, right? So there it might play an importance. In probably there you might have restrictions saying that you need certain grade or certain percentage to qualify at least for the first round of interview or the written test, right? But let us say you've just made it. So let us say the cutoff is 65% or 6 GPA or whatever it is, right? You've just made it. You just made it to the interview, right? So once you're in the interview, it really doesn't matter that much. What matters is your performance right there in the interview, but not what you did in the last 3 or 4 years, right? And for people who might not have really good grades in college, but they have good skills, right? But they might have learned something on their own, right? So what about this kind of people, right? So but there are companies, for example, let us take our own company, right? We really don't give a lot of value to grades, so there is no cutoff for us on the amount of percentage or GPA that you can that you need to when you apply for a job with us, right? So because we come a different background, we come from technical background, we understand, and also our size, right? So we are 100 people right now. So at our size, it is possible for us to actually talk to people who don't qualify for that cutoff as well, right? So this is the first things that guys. So let me go to the next slide. So ability to work in a team. So as I said, right, so teamwork is very important. Failure of a project depends on, it is a collective effort, and you have to make yourself a part of that, right? So if you're not, if the entire team is going in one direction and you're going in another direction, it's not going to work out, right? And another thing that we really believe, so initially we had this question when we started out as a company, right? So even if someone is not a good team player, but he or she is individually brilliant, right? So does it matter? Does individual brilliance matter? Unfortunately, it doesn't. How if it doesn't matter, even if you're really very skilled, you're brilliant individually, if you can't work in a team, it doesn't matter, right? So this has to be very important. So how do you make sure you're collaborating to the team, right? First thing is, you have to be approachable, right? Your teammates, they can come to you, they can ask you questions, or probably you can clarify their questions, or so all of this comes under being approachable, right? You have to make your team understand that they can reach out to you in case they have any concerns, or probably anything else for that matter, any delivery is pending or anything else, right? So being approachable is very important, and you have to keep it in mind, individual brilliance really doesn't matter, right? So this is about your ability to work in a team, right? So let's go to the next slide. All right, guys. So the next thing is in our list, right? Problem solving skills. So what do I mean by problem solving skills, right? So when you come for an interview into a company, right? So they have no idea about you apart from your CV, right? Your resume. So, and your resume, because you're fresh out of college, right? It doesn't have much, right? So there is no past experience. There are no past projects that you can talk about, right? So how do you solve this problem? How do you make sure any company or any interviewer who is looking at your resume, they get you get their attention, right? So this is where things like what I mentioned here, there is something called as lead code. I don't know how, I'm not sure if how many of you have heard about it, and there is something called as hacker earth, and I'm sure there are so many other resources, but lead code and hacker earth are some of the things that we look for inside our company. So what these do is, both of these companies, right? So once you log in into their sites, right? So they give you, there are small challenges, right? So there are actually different challenges, and it all depends on how comfortable you are in solving them, right? But I would recommend, and my company, my other founders and my colleagues also really will take notice if you have certain certifications, right? So lead code, let us say, to get some kind of certification, let us, it's the first level of certification, right? You have to solve 5 to 6 problems, right? So if you can do that, if you go ahead and solve those problems and get certified, we are going to notice you, right? And you are going to jump right to the top of the queue, right? Because we might have 100 resumes in our queue. You're going to go to the top of the queue, and we are going to first interview you, right? Because you've proven your problem solving skills, right? And another thing that you can do is having a personal GitHub profile. So GitHub, I'm sure you must know, it's a tool where you can host your projects, right? So your personal GitHub profile is free. You can host as many projects as you would like on your profile. It can be any small project. You need not build a complex application, right? But as long as you have your presence there. So what does it tell the employer, right? Or your interviewer, right? It tells us that the basics of code management. You have used a tool called as GitHub, and you have shown interest, self-interest, without anyone's motivation, to actually go ahead and post something over there, right? So that is again very important. It makes you stand out. And the next thing is again personal projects, right? I'm not sure how many of you come from which backgrounds you come from, and your current skill sets, right? But what I would say is, for example, let us take my example. When I was in my 4th year, right, in my college, as a part of my uh, 4th year, 2nd semester, right, I built an application. I learned PHP on my own. I learned HTML and CSS, and I built an application that was similar to Wikipedia. And forget about all the marks and everything in college, right? But what it did was it helped me get noticed, right? So when I quit Wipro to start this company, this was one of the projects that I showcased to my future potential clients, right? And they were really impressed, right? So the world has come a long way from that, right? Right now you have even more tools at your disposal, and you could do a lot of personal projects, right? So this will again help you get noticed. And when you build this project, right, this code or your any personal project, right, you could host it on GitHub, right? And people will notice you, right? Certifications, I spoke about that. So I gave you a couple of resources: Lead Code and Hacker Earth. So those are a couple of things that we look at, and there are a lot of other things as well, right? So that is about your problem solving skills, right? So the first interaction with your interviewer doesn't know anything about you apart from your resume or CV, right? And how do you show them that you have good problem solving skills is, again, by the certifications, your personal projects, or having a profile on GitHub. Having an empty profile doesn't really help, guys and girls, right? You have to understand, you need to work, put something there, right? So this is how you get noticed, right? So now let's move on to the next slide. Taking initiative and technical skills, right? So in the first slide, what I said was, you need to be a good team player, right? So I'll give you an example. So your attitude when you're inside a team, right? So that is really important. How you progress in your career, let us say in the next 2 years or 3 years, right? So we have seen a lot of people. We keep hiring people, especially freshers, and we have batches that come in and go out, right? So we have trained a lot of people, and one thing we really don't like in the in our in the candidates is, when you make a mistake, right, and you don't accept it, right? So we are not expecting any apologies or anything, right? So when, let us say, when you wrote a piece of code, right, and when one of your managers or mentors points you what is the mistake in that code and how you should go about solving that, right? We want people to understand that and accept that okay, there is a better way to go about it, and learn from that. We have seen people where they are very stubborn at accepting things, and that really doesn't take you anywhere, right? So the first thing is, don't be afraid to make mistakes, first thing. And the second thing is, when someone points out, right, your mentor or your peers or your colleagues, right, you have to learn to accept that and learn from that and move ahead, right? And make sure in the next, whatever next assignment you have, you don't do the same thing again, right? So that's one thing. So in the interview also, this is we will evaluate the candidates for this, because I'll tell you a little bit about our interview process in the later stages. But one part of our interview is the technical round, right? So where we set up a call with the candidate, and then we will ask them to write a piece of code. We will give you a little bit of time, right? And there in itself, we will learn a lot about the candidate, right? How willing are they to listen to the feedback and incorporate that, or are they stubborn? Are they being a good team player? So we will learn a lot of that from the interview itself. right? And the other thing, the second point, right? So when this is specific to our company, WebileApps, right? So when we are hiring people, we don't look at what how you are currently with respect to your technical skills, uh, or probably other skill sets, right? We will look at if we train you, right? If we train you for a couple of months, right? What you can become, that is what we will look for, right? So you don't have to be really good at today and be individually brilliant, as I said, right? But if we get the confidence that you are a good team player, you have good attitude, you have good listening skills, you have the ability to take good feedback, right? That is what we look for, because when we train you, all these abilities will help us in and will also help you progress, right? And the next thing, guys, is so most of you might have gone to a computer lab at some time in your school or college, right? So when we are interviewing, right, we don't expect you to do fancy stuff, any fancy stuff there, right? We will ask you basic things, like for example, we will ask you to write a program that can print numbers for all the primes up to 100, right? So what we are evaluating there is your basic analytical skills, and the other thing is so your ability to grasp what you learned in your college or in your education, right, and apply those skills practically, right? So that is what I mean by what you did in lab, can you still do it after 2 years or 3 years, right? So uh, I'll probably talk more about this in the next slides in our interview process, right? And this is the most important thing, team, code quality, right? So during the interview in our company, right, as I told you, we will look at all the other skills, right? Their communication, their attitude, their team ability to work in a team, and how if we hire you, how you will become, right, in the next 1 year, right? So in addition to all of these things, there is another thing also that we look at, is how the kind of code that you are writing, right? So, and we don't expect people to remember everything. We want you to use Google, use Stack Overflow, right? We want you to use the internet to find the solutions to the problems that we give you, right? As long as the first thing is, let us say I give you a problem, yeah, right? We want you to first understand that problem, right? So if I say I want you to print uh, all the prime numbers, the first 100 prime numbers, right? You need to understand what is a prime number, right? And you need to understand how do you actually the pseudo code, right? The logic behind it, the step-by-step workflow, how do you print that, right? And then you can go to Google or Stack Overflow and look at that actual syntax and then implement it here, right? And another thing is, whenever, and this is something we take very seriously inside our company, is whenever you take something from Google or probably Stack Overflow, you search for something and you get a solution, right? We don't want people to blindly copy and paste 2 or 3 different solutions without actually understanding what the solution posted on the internet does, right? So for example, when you read a book, right, we don't want you to mug up the concepts, right? So we want you to understand the concept and why it was written in that in a particular fashion, right? Similarly with code, we are happy with you looking with the candidates looking at the code and copying and pasting it, as long as they understand what each line of the code does, right? So this is another important thing. So this will help you in a lot of other places also, right? In a lot of once you start reading code, right, it's just like reading a book. So book, it's the language is English, right? When you're reading code, probably it's the programming language, whatever language it is written in, you have to understand its syntax, but you can make it out, right? We want you to understand the code, right? And the next thing is in technical skills, right? Which programming languages should you focus on, right? Since this talk is geared more about people who are fresh out of college, right? So it really doesn't matter which programming language for you to focus on. So whatever they taught you in college, right? If you're comfortable with it, that should be good enough, right? Because we are any company that's going to take you is going to train you again, right? So as long as you're good with one programming language, let it be C, or probably if you think C is too old, right? It can be Python, or it can be JavaScript, right? It can be any language as long as you're comfortable expressing solving problems in that language, right? So for people who are fresh out of college, it really doesn't matter. All that matters is how comfortable you are, because companies are going to train you again, and all the fundamentals that you learned, right, in your college, let us say you are proficient at C or JavaScript, right? those fundament those fundamentals will be carried out to other languages as well. Syntax will differ and advanced concepts might differ, right? But the basics are going to be same, right? So uh, this is probably, I don't know, this is exaggerated a little on the in colleges, the stress on the languages that you have to learn, but honestly it's not such a big deal. All right, so let me just summarize this, guys, right? The first thing is what we look for, right? You have to learn from your team, and what companies look for is not how you are currently, but if the company is going to train you, right, how you will be in the next 1 year. So this is what they look for in the interview, right? And what you did in the lab, right? So how good are your understanding skills? So this is something that they look at, and code quality. So when in an interview, when someone gives you an assignment, right? So this is another factor that they look into. And which programming languages, as I said, it really doesn't matter as long as you're comfortable in the language of your choice. All right, so now I will talk about the interview process in our company, what we do inside our company. So first thing is, any company for that matter, they will receive, you can either walk in. If they're conducting walk-ins, you can either walk in, or you can, if they're running an online campaign, you can submit your CVs to them, right? So in your CV or the resume, the first thing that they look for is, because any company will receive thousands of resumes, right? So how do they filter them? They are not going to read through each resume. They're just going to look at highlights, right? So what you need to do is, first thing is, talk. Let us say the company has a requirement on Node.js or React, right? uh, or probably Java for that matter, right? So they're going to look at these keywords in your CV, right? So if you have basic understanding of any of these, right, so you can put that in your CV, right? If you put it in your resume, right? So they on a very, from a very high level, right? Your resume has a chance of being picked up, right? And from there, the next step is, so mostly this happens for people with 1 to 2 years, right? But freshers, it's a little different. So freshers, and what happens is, there is a written test, right? Most of you would have taken analytical tests on analytical skills that evaluate your analytical skills or communication skills or things like that, right? So inside our company, what we do is we use a tool, right? That automates the entire test taking process. So you can sit at your home, like we'll send, if you're running a campaign for Node.js, right? So, and we receive a set of CVs, right? So what we do is, we will send you the invite for the test, right? And the test consists of, there is a time limit for the test, and the test consists of simple problems that you can solve. So, and you don't have to, in the test, you don't, the code that you write need not be syntactically correct, as long as the pseudo logic and the if you can showcase that you understood the requirement correctly, right? So that is something that we look for in the written test. And written test is the first line of filtering for any company. So what they do is they evaluate your skills, problem solving, as I mentioned, right? So they evaluate your skills, and from there, if there is a threshold, a cutoff, and once you cross that, right, you will be called for a technical interview, right? So technical interviews are usually in person interviews, right? So what happens in a technical interview? You're required to share your be on a video call and share your screen, and then uh, they're going to evaluate you on the previous things that we discussed, right? So your ability to be a team player and all the other things, right? So they are going to evaluate you based on that, right? So once usually the technical interview is done, and if your interviewer is satisfied, the next step is your HR interview, right? So that's the typical interview process in our company, guys. So for freshers, there is an invite based automated test. So that will test you for your analytical and technical abilities. And once you are through that, there is a technical interview, and then the HR. It's a typical process, right? So all right, team. So with that, I guess I have covered most of the points that I wanted to cover. So we can probably use the next next bit of time that we have to answer any questions that each of you may have, right? So go ahead. You can, if you have any questions, you can just let me know. And once we are done with the questions, what I'll do is I'll share you the, in case some of you are interested, right, in reaching out to us, right? So we as a company, we are hiring. So I'll share you the email address wherein you can send your CV, right? So that's there as well, right? So we will probably utilize this time to answer any questions that you may have. All right then, guys. So what I'll do is I'll uh, share the email ID, right, where you can send your CV, so you can pass it on to your friends or anyone that you think uh, are looking for an opportunity, right? And then you ask them to send their CV to this email address, and it goes straight into our queue. And then when the next batch is starting for our training, we can we will make sure that we call the people. I see that someone is asking asking to unmute them. You can probably, I don't know if I can do that, but you can, if you have anything, you can just type it out in the chat here. All right, team. So I guess if there is nothing else, I think we can conclude this session. All right. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.